Emily Carter had built Carter Global Holdings from a struggling logistics startup into one of the largest investment firms on the West Coast. At only 34, she was already one of Los Angeles's most respected CEOs. Her days were packed with board meetings, acquisitions, and negotiations worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The only peaceful part of her routine was the morning drive to the company's headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. That routine changed the day her longtime chauffeur, Richard Brooks, was forced to retire because of a serious lung illness. Before leaving, he stood awkwardly inside Emily's office, twisting his cap in his hands. "Miss Carter, I have one favor to ask." Emily looked up from the documents on her desk. "My son Ethan recently lost his job. He's a responsible kid, at least he used to be. If there's any chance you could give him an opportunity." Out of respect for Richard's years of loyal service, Emily agreed. For the first few weeks, Ethan Brooks seemed dependable. He arrived early every morning in Emily's black Rolls-Royce Phantom, opened the door without being asked, and rarely spoke unless spoken to. Then one Monday morning, Emily walked outside and noticed a young blonde woman sitting comfortably in the front passenger seat. Before Emily could ask, Ethan hurried around to open the rear door. "Good morning, Miss Carter. This is my girlfriend, Madison Reed. She works near our route, so I figured I'd give her a ride on the way." Emily glanced at the woman. Madison barely looked up from fixing her makeup in the mirror. Emily simply nodded. "It doesn't affect me," she thought. At first, it really didn't. But over the next several weeks, Madison became a permanent passenger. Every morning, Ethan picked Madison up first before coming for Emily. Madison treated the luxury car as though it belonged to her. She filmed TikTok videos inside the leather interior. She posted selfies captioned, "Morning rides with my man. CEO lifestyle." Emily occasionally noticed the posts whenever they appeared online, but she didn't waste time thinking about them. She had companies to run. Madison, however, seemed unusually interested in Emily. Every single ride, she stared at Emily through the rearview mirror with open disdain. Sometimes she'd wrinkle her nose dramatically. "Do you smell that?" Madison complained loudly one morning. "It smells cheap back here." Emily frowned. Later that afternoon, she instructed the detailing company to perform a complete interior cleaning. The Rolls-Royce returned spotless. The next morning, Madison still complained. Other days, after Emily stepped out of the vehicle, Madison sprayed expensive perfume across the back seat. Occasionally, she'd pull disposable seat covers from her purse before Emily even entered the car. Emily finally confronted Ethan. "What exactly is your girlfriend's problem?" Ethan smiled nervously. "Nothing serious, Miss Carter. Madison is just obsessed with cleanliness. She worries dust might get on your clothes." The explanation sounded ridiculous. Still, Emily had far bigger problems than arguing with a driver's girlfriend. Weeks passed. Then one Friday morning, everything changed. Emily opened the rear passenger door as usual. A folded note had been taped neatly to her seat. She pulled it off. It read, "Free riders aren't welcome in my boyfriend's car." Emily stared at the words for several seconds before looking toward the front. Madison slowly turned around with a smug smile. "Can you read?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "What exactly do you mean by this?" Madison crossed her arms. "It means every single day you use my boyfriend for free." She laughed coldly. "If you can't afford an Uber, maybe you shouldn't be pretending you're successful." Emily blinked. For perhaps the first time in years, she was genuinely speechless. Emily slowly folded the note and slipped it into her purse. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. Instead, she looked directly at Ethan. "Would you like to explain?" Ethan's face immediately turned pale. He hurried around the car and lowered his voice. "Miss Carter, please don't misunderstand. Madison doesn't know I'm your chauffeur." Emily remained silent. He continued nervously. "She's very jealous. I told her I own a transportation company. She thinks this Rolls-Royce belongs to me." Emily stared at him without saying a word. "So," she finally asked, "you've been lying to her this entire time?" Ethan swallowed. "I just wanted her to respect me." Madison interrupted from the front seat. "Ethan, why are you wasting time talking to her? Tell her to find another ride." Then she looked directly at Emily. I don't want strangers sitting in my boyfriend's car anymore. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Before she could respond, Ethan spoke again. Miss Carter, could you please wait here for 10 minutes? I'll drop Madison off first and then come back for you. Emily looked at him as if she'd never seen him before. You want me to wait? It'll only take a few minutes. Without waiting for an answer, Ethan climbed into the driver's seat. Madison smiled triumphantly. The Rolls-Royce pulled away. Emily stood alone on the sidewalk outside her Beverly Hills home, watching her own car disappear around the corner. For nearly 30 seconds, she didn't move. Then she calmly unlocked her phone. She dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My vehicle has just been taken without my permission. The dispatcher immediately became serious. Can you describe the vehicle? A black Rolls-Royce Phantom. And do you know the person driving it? Yes. My employee. He drove away after refusing to return my car. Within 20 minutes, 2 police cruisers arrived outside the mansion. The officers had barely stepped onto the driveway when the familiar Rolls-Royce turned the corner and slowly approached. Ethan jumped out before the engine even stopped. His expression turned white the moment he saw the police. Miss Carter, what happened? Why are officers here? One policeman stepped forward. Sir, are you Ethan Brooks? Yes. We received a report that you took this vehicle without the owner's permission. Ethan immediately raised both hands. No, that's not what happened. This is all a misunderstanding. He forced an awkward smile. I'm Miss Carter's chauffeur. I simply dropped someone off before returning. I wasn't stealing anything. The officer turned toward Emily. Ma'am, would you like to press charges? Before she could answer, Ethan stepped closer, almost whispering, Please, don't. My father worked for you for years. You know how much he respected you. He's still recovering from his illness. If he hears I was arrested, his voice cracked. It would destroy him. Emily remembered Richard Brooks. 6 years. Never late. Never dishonest. Never once had he abused her trust. Every Christmas, he tried refusing his annual bonus before finally accepting it with embarrassed gratitude. Richard had earned Emily's respect. His son clearly hadn't. Still, Richard didn't deserve more suffering. Emily let out a slow breath. I'm not pressing charges. Ethan's shoulders collapsed with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. I promise this will never happen again. The officers confirmed Emily's decision, documented the incident, and drove away. As soon as they disappeared, Ethan became almost overly polite. He opened the rear door. I'm truly sorry, Miss Carter. It won't happen again. Emily entered the Rolls-Royce without replying. The rest of the drive passed in complete silence. For the next few weeks, Madison disappeared from the morning rides. The passenger seat remained empty. The Rolls-Royce stayed perfectly clean. Emily assumed Ethan had finally learned his lesson. But soon, another problem appeared. Every morning he started arriving late. Sometimes 10 minutes. Sometimes 20. Always with a different excuse. Sorry, Miss Carter. There was a major accident on Sunset Boulevard. The next day, my alarm never went off. Then, my apartment flooded overnight. Another morning, a police checkpoint delayed traffic. The excuses never stopped. Emily found them increasingly difficult to believe. Still, his driving remained excellent, and she had no concrete proof of anything. Until one Saturday morning, Emily decided to spend the weekend at her oceanfront Malibu estate. She called Ethan. I'm heading to Malibu. Bring the car. There was a long pause. Then Ethan answered carefully. Miss Carter, I'm really sorry. The Rolls-Royce has a mechanical problem. It's at the repair shop. The mechanic says it won't be finished until tomorrow. Emily frowned. I'll take a ride-share instead. No problem. After hanging up, she booked a car herself. 45 minutes later, she arrived outside the gates of her Malibu villa and froze. Her black Rolls-Royce Phantom was already parked in the driveway. Emily stood perfectly still. For several long seconds, she simply stared at the black Rolls-Royce parked outside her Malibu estate. The car was spotless. No flat tire. No mechanic. No repair shop. Ethan had lied. A cold feeling settled in her chest. Without making a sound, she walked toward the front entrance. The front door wasn't locked. She slowly pushed it open. The moment she stepped inside, her heart sank. The villa looked like it had survived a wild college party. Designer furniture was stained with spilled drinks. Champagne bottles covered the marble floor. Expensive rugs were buried beneath pizza boxes, snack wrappers, and cigarette butts. Someone had spilled red wine across a custom-made white sofa worth over $50,000. Burn marks covered the wooden coffee table. Music blasted from hidden speakers throughout the house. Emily silently walked farther inside. Then she saw them. Madison was relaxing on Emily's sectional sofa like she owned the place. Around her sat Nearly,